Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our continuing series on one of my favorite consoles of all time, the Sega Dreamcast. And today we're taking a look at Rez, which is one of the most unique and amazing games on the console. It was made by United Game Artists after they finished production on Space Channel 5. If you ever played that game, you're going to definitely see a direct lineage and all the musicality behind Rez as a game. Before we get too far involved though, if you can do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, ring that notification bell, it definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But I remember when I imported Rez for my Dreamcast back when it came out, I had read about it in magazines, I had seen a few previews online, back when that's all you really got was a few photos online, and I knew I absolutely had to play this game. I got it, it arrived, and I absolutely fell in love with it, and still to this day I think it's one of the greatest experiences on the Dreamcast. But at first glance it is quite basic. We just have this wireframe animation, and it's basically like a third-person shmup. And playing the game in and of itself is not that difficult. You'll see we lock onto the different projectiles coming in, and then we release that button, and all of our missiles, or whatever those are, mine beams, are going to shoot out and destroy everything coming at you. But I just love the presentation of this game. You can tell me that this came out on the Dreamcast in early 2000, and I know that's true, but this game looks like something that could be released today. Even so much so that Rez Infinite on virtual reality systems was re-released, and it looks absolutely spectacular, and I highly recommend that version as well. But this is where I first played Rez, it's where my heart lies as far as my favorite version, but no matter how you play this game, you 100% want to play it. It's not just a video game, it's almost like an interactive art installation that you can play around with. And one of the best things about it is just the musical nature to it, because you can hear in the background, and I will give you a chance to listen to it, just how much your gameplay affects the music in and around the world itself. And that was something that felt relatively unique at the point in time, but considering United Game Artists did make Space Channel 5, which was a music rhythm game, it comes as no surprise that they were able to evolve that formula into something closer to a shmup, and it's just a really special feeling game. I don't know if you've ever been to a museum where they have interactable light installations where you move your hand through a light and it makes a tone, but a lot of that feels like it started in Rez. And you'll see here, as we've increased the level of the layer, we're getting more music, we're getting more animation, the colors coming alive, and everything is just getting faster and more vibrant. And even though there is no connection between the two games, this reminds me a lot of Tempest 2000 on the Atari Jaguar by Jeff Minter. It's musical, it's colorful, it's a shooter, and the further you get into the game, the more alive it really becomes. But you see there as those missile bursts happen, just the vibrant colors that come across the wall. It is so peaceful and so charming just to look at all the different colorscapes and colorways this game has to offer as you see that musical waveform expand in front of you. It really is just like nothing else I have ever experienced, and that's why I've always loved the Dreamcast and still do to this day, because I just felt like they were constantly giving us experiences that felt like nothing I had ever played before. Because when I first played Rez, I really didn't have any game to compare it to because it felt like a completely original effort. Now I can compare it to other things as I've played many more games have come out, but when Rez first launched, it just felt like something that was special and unique, and that's a lot of what the Dreamcast library always felt like, were just experiences that you couldn't get anywhere else. Like I said, gameplay-wise, it is a very simple to understand and hard to master game. Just locking on with your missiles and dealing with these small enemies is quite easy. It's almost to the point where it's not automatically playing itself, but it really doesn't take too much effort to hold down the button and move your analog stick. But as you get further on into this game, dealing with combinations, dealing with bosses, it actually gets to be quite challenging. But these screen transitions here, if you ever watched the movie Lawnmower Man, you'll know what my comparison is, but it feels in a lot of way like that. This like VR simulation before VR was commonplace. Even when this came out, a few arcades had small VR experiences. Well, I mean, honestly, they were quite big, but they weren't the VR we know today. But this felt as close to playing virtual reality in your home as you could get back when the game came out. But I've mentioned a ton about how good the music really is in this game, and it is one of the driving forces behind it. So go ahead and listen to about 45 seconds to a minute of the soundtrack, because it is just one of the best in gaming history as far as I'm concerned. And I'll be back in about a minute and tell you more about why, if you've never played Rez, you should. But enjoy! now that you've heard that soundtrack, I can't go on enough about how amazing it really is. Now, I'm not one to go to capital C clubs in my life. It's not really a thing that I'd ever want to do. But if there was a club that played music from Rez, I totally could understand being interested in something like that. And honestly, Rez is kind of what brought this genre of electronic music to my consciousness, because when this game came out, I really wasn't too familiar with it. But now it's something that if I hear, I definitely will listen to it. It almost has like an Adult Swim sort of bump music vibe to it. But as far as the game itself is concerned, there really isn't anything like this. It stands on its own as a wholly unique experience, and if you've never played it before, it doesn't really matter how you play it, but you absolutely have to. If you have a VR headset, Rez Infinite is spectacular because you're getting to see everything that you're seeing right now in virtual reality, and then it actually has an additional world at the end. You can also get this in HD on the Xbox 360, and I believe it's available on the Xbox One. But if you own a Dreamcast, there is nothing wrong with playing the original Rez, because to me it is still the version I love playing the most. The Dreamcast controller with the analog stick and the button configuration in my hand just feels exactly how I remember the game feeling, and honestly, even though this game is almost 20 years old by this point in time, it still looks absolutely beautiful. This graphical styling holds up so well. Play something like Sonic Adventure, something I've done a video previously on and I won't be including in this series, and while it's still really fun, you can see how much those graphics have aged. Play something like Rez, and you could just tell me that this was a design decision to keep the video in 4:3 for an aesthetic, and I would 100% believe that this could have been made and released on Steam yesterday. This is just a really important entry in gaming history. And I'm not sure how I'm scheduling these videos, but you've either already seen Space Channel 5, or you'll be seeing it quite soon in the future on the series. And United Game Artists just made a ton of really incredible and unique experiences. And I love all the neon coming out of the boss here. My intention actually was to beat him, but I do not. But all I wanted to show you was the intro sequence to Rez. This is just the beginning of the game. It gets more colorful, it gets more vibrant, it gets more musical as you go on. And it is just an experience that if you're watching my channel, clearly you like video games underneath the surface level of modern AAA releases. So like I said, if you haven't played this game, do me a favor. If there's one game in the Dreamcast series that you play, make it Rez, because it is just that much fun. And honestly, it is challenging. It's not the easiest game in the world. It's not the hardest game in the world. But once you get better at it, you can certainly beat it in half an hour. But it's going to be one of the most entertaining, visually distinct half an hour gaming experiences you're going to be able to get. And I'm not advocating for it, but these visuals will definitely be fun no matter how you experience them. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But short of that, like I said, we're going to have a lot more Dreamcast games coming up, and Rez is just one of them. I'm never sure how I'm scheduling these when I make them, so maybe I'll lead with it, maybe I'll finish with it, you never know. But again, this boss, all of these different colorful blocks moving around, the music, the beat, how the camera moves back and forth, it's just a hypnotic, mesmerizing experience, and it's something that Dreamcast was well known for. We just constantly got these experimental games on the platform, and that's why Dreamcast still remains my favorite 3D console of all time. I love the Super Nintendo, I love the Sega Genesis for 2D stuff, but when you want to talk about 3D consoles, Dreamcast is where it's at. But you'll see there, I did lose, but we will be back every Tuesday moving forward with a video on the Dreamcast, or maybe the NAOMI, or maybe the Hikaru. You never know what I'm going to show. But if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I love chatting with you guys. And if you have played Rez, I'd love to know your opinion on it. Like I said earlier in the video, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And I will have videos on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday as well. But we'll be back next Tuesday with another brand new Dreamcast game. But trust me, if you've never played Rez, go play it right now. Bye-bye.